we've got our offline fallback options. Big change here again is that we're now by default storing not just the content but also the schedules and all of the information required to continuously play back seamlessly in the event of an offline failure for an endpoint. So if a device goes offline or loses connection to the server, it can continue to play what it has scheduled to play, and we will gracefully remove any of the content that would be interrupted by the network loss. So if there's HTML content or if there's live content being fed to that device, that will just be skipped. If it's in a layout that's got multiple zones, that zone will be hidden and whatever's behind it will be played. So it allows you a lot of continuity around device playback. And you've got some additional options here in terms of how that will behave. So you can either continue to play your existing schedule and, as I say, gracefully remove items that will show a fault, or you can select and opt to change that to alternative content. And you've got that at two different levels. At the display group level, you're able to select an entirely different playlist per display group or multiple display groups. And at the layout level, you can also change specific content zones so that they're going to play something alternative within that layout. Again, we'll jump into how that looks. So if we go back to our display group page, initially we've got our offline options button at the top, which allows us by geometry here at the top to select which geometry we want to apply an offline option for, and whatever we select here and save will then be applied as an offline option to all the display groups that are matching the 1080p geometry. We can look for playlists and we can look for layouts. If we, for whatever reason, don't want a specific display group to have that particular option, we can come in here at the individual level and override the global setting we just deployed, and that will allow us to do the exact same setting, but we're only setting it for this display group, so we don't get the geometry options here. And really what that means is that network administrators, or those that are in charge of making sure the screens are always on, will have a much better time when a screen goes into a fault state or loses connection, as they can control what's on screen. They can spot that immediately and know that there's a problem with that screen if they've got alternative content playing, and then they can go and correct that without any of their end consumers of those screens being any the wiser. If we just finally look at how that looks in the layout options, so we pick up this layout here, and if we see here we've got some varied zones. If we come in here to the options of the zone, we've now got an offline mode options, where at the moment by default you'll have show content, so if the player goes offline, that content will continue to play gracefully. If not, you can decide to hide that content, which is useful if you've got content that is perhaps sensitive to a specific time period, like finance information in a retail environment. You might have a sale on that's only supposed to last for a certain amount of time, and those can all be triggered to hide if the player goes offline, and in case they don't get an update in time, and that is then displaying misinformation when you don't want it to. So another good reason to have this configured. And then finally, you've got the option to play alternative content, where you can come in and select from the range of content that's available offline and select whatever you would want to play instead of that current content. Alternatively, of course, if you're hiding it, you can have something set up behind that as part of the background, or an image behind to display what's of your choice.